Dr. Todd, welcome to Podcastina.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. Would you mind if we just started with a little bit of your background?
Yeah. So I'm a psychologist by training. I do a lot of things with that. I end up sometimes being a relationship coach, sometimes a health and wellness coach, sometimes your therapist. And so I end up working with mostly women, but folks of all walks of life here in Miami and Coral Gables, individuals and couples, and helping people try to find their happiness and peace and love.
And being that you work with a lot of couples, and I'm guessing like both men and women separately, what do you think is like the biggest issue that relationships are facing today?
There's still, I don't even think it's new. I think there's still a divide in relationship goals or expectations from the genders. And now that's gotten more blown up because I think this generation, your generation of women, are more independent and less than in prior generations where, we've got this debate now about, do you want to be a trad wife? And that's a term now, but that used to just be your only option. So I think now there's complexity in, you've got men saying that they want a strong, independent woman, but then they marry that woman and they kind of wish she would stay home and manage the house and the kids and give up her career. So I think there's still a lot of confusion in what do men and women want when it comes to relationships. And then you can delve even further there with the idea that now you have women who are both managing full-time careers and families. And the statistics show that even if both parents work and they're both in the house, mom still does like 60 or 70% of the childcare, even if she still has a full-time job. So I think there's confusion about what are we supposed to be doing? And there's not a right answer to that, but that's where I see a lot of couples debating because I think there are assumptions, there are expectations.
Now, that split that you mentioned doesn't sound very fair and or even for the women, that somehow that role, the domestic role, still kind of falls on the woman. What do you think is underneath that? Like, I don't know that women are necessarily inherently better at like the household tasks, but to have those things kind of naturally fall, I think, and this is just my like observation, is that I see a lot of women posting online that they're kind of like fed up with mothering. And so I'm wondering if that's like what causes that type of dynamic, is because the woman kind of naturally takes on more. But if they're both out of the house working all day long, then like, how is that a good split?
And it's still such a societal assumption. I think there's pressure that doesn't even necessarily come from your male partner, but if I go pick up my daughter at dance, everybody's like, "Oh wow, daddy's here." But then the second question is like, "Where's mom?" There's an assumption that mom should be doing it. So even if you had a truly 50-50 split in parenting, I think there's still this pressure that mom is supposed to always be there. The mom should make herself available. And I'll tell you, like, it's very rare to see the stay-at-home dad, but in the community I'm in, there are many, many women that either work part-time or don't work, and they're not trad wives. They're not necessarily cooking and cleaning, but you very rarely see the husband being the one who stays home with the kids while mom goes out and does career things. So I think it's hard because even if the dyad can push against it, then there's still this pressure that you're getting from other sources that like, tisk, tisk, why wasn't mom there? She's not a good mom. I'm going to plug, there's a book that I have yet to read. It literally just came out 3 days ago. I don't know the woman, the author at all, but I love that this came out. It's called One Bad Mother. And I can't think of the author right now. We'll put it in the notes, but she puts forth this idea that like, how do we define a bad mom through the generations? And what even is a bad mom? And are you a bad mom if you do or don't do certain things? And like, most people aren't calling themselves a bad mom, but they feel like through the lens of society or their prior generations or online people, I'm a bad mom if I don't meet certain expectations. But being a bad dad, like, the bar is so low.
Right.
And again, I think that's societal. I don't even think that's in the coupling. So I do think women are fed up and they don't know where to go to find like a safe space, because you can find a couple of girlfriends and say like, we all agree we're going to mom this way and like drop the standard or take the pressure off ourselves. But then once you exit that safe space, I think there's still a perception of like the way.
Yeah, and I do think that so much of that is societal, where it's kind of hard to draw the line of like, where do my ingrained beliefs like come from? Where do they stop? And where does it begin to be like me and what I actually believe and what I affirm of like how I should be a parent? And I'm wondering, like, I mean, is there an underlying evolutionary or psychological reason that like that split exists, or is it like just society?
So, and I do think there is a biological piece in the sense that, first off, mom is the one that traditionally, we got some exceptions, that carries a child to term. Biologically, you are growing this baby, and dad can't do anything. Dad can support you, but you're the maker of the baby. But then the first, I'd say, minimum 6 months, it's so much mom, because mom has the milk, or mom has that nurturing hormonal connection. Mom is going to react different to the baby's cry. And dad is just the bringer of the baby. I will bring the baby to you so you can nurse. I will bring the baby to you so you can swaddle or cuddle him or her. And not that dad can't give a bottle or cuddle, but it really does lean more on the mom, truly, like biologically, those first, I'd say, 6 months. The trick is then to like pivot after that, to then say, now either one of us can change this diaper, give this bottle, put the kid in the stroller. It doesn't have to be just mom. But I think at first it swings that way, and not all couples, and this is to both genders, not everybody switches. Because the thing that I see, and this is not to pick on either side, but you can have the doofus dad that acts like an idiot and doesn't lean in and like, dude, try. But you can also have the overly controlling mom that, you're not doing it the way I would do it. Just give me the baby. And so some of it leans to both. If you want help from your partner as the mom, you need to relinquish control and understand that he's going to do it maybe not exactly the way you would do it, and let him find his way as the co-parent. But that's where I see a lot of moms, a lot of women face this duality. I want help, but I want you to be a photocopy of me and do exactly what I would say, and either be my facsimile or be my servant. And we need to allow that there's two different ways. And that's partly the benefit of having a two-parent household. Not that all kids need that, but then you get mommy does it this way, daddy does it this way. And that's a different, then the kid can find their own way. You got options, you know? But there's this complexity that I think women, whether you're a mom or not a mom, you kind of, I mean, the thing I talk about all the time is, how do you have it all? Because I think there is, not for all women, but for some women, there is a biological desire that I do want to be the main one in my child's life. But I also want to have a life of my own. And I also want to have a career. And it's not, I think it's hard to pick. I don't think it's that society's putting women in boxes. I think that it's that there's almost like too many choices, and it's good that you have choices, but then you can't do it all.
Or in a lot of cases, you don't have a choice because we're just in an economic reality where like both parents do have to work. It's not the golden age of like a man could just go get a blue collar job and pay for an entire household like the 50s.
Right. Yeah. The choice. And now there's more, there's that, but then there's also more divorces, which are good on the one hand, because people don't need to stay in abusive or unhappy or loveless marriages. But then it's bad because then you are, you're having to choose financial security or emotional security. Like, what do we do? I don't know. The complexity of choice is what I see a lot of us facing right now. And the internet doesn't help that, because now you see things that you didn't used to see. So you used to just live your life, whether it was your career, your relationship, momming, whatever, just based on like the people in your immediate sphere. But now we see options that may not be relatable to us or may not be available to us, but you saw it. So now I think that is an option. I think I could be like that person I saw on social media. The comparison game is brutal.
Oof. Yeah. And social media is like the worst driver of that for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, it's what fuels it. That's the whole point. It's like a drug. You hate it, but you love it.
Yeah. Without breaking any confidentiality of people that you're working with, can you give me an example of like what is a common issue that comes up with like the couples you work with?
So often it's communication, and the stereotypical gender divide there that, like, I spend a lot of time just translating male and female, and we really do speak like Mars and Venus and all that kind of thing. Like, there really is, women say things in a different way, broadly speaking, and men think or say things in a different way broadly. And so that's where so much of it is understanding what your partner's intention was, what he or she was really trying to communicate, but it's not landing. And there's, you see these light bulbs go off when I show them what I think your partner meant, and they go, oh, that, yeah, that. But I didn't hear that. I heard a whole other thing, and that's why there's discord, you know? And I think it's still, even with ChatGPT, even in this modern era where there's less extreme gender differences, we do just do things differently. We have different ways of communicating. That I don't think society and biology have not caught up there.
I wonder if this is a really common one because it's kind of a cliche one. Maybe you can affirm if this happens a lot, but let's say like a woman seems upset or something and the partner comes home and the vibe is off and he goes, "Are you okay? Is something wrong?" And she like stonewalls and is like, "I'm fine." What's the translation for that? Or how do you tell people to like navigate those kinds of situations? Because it's like a lack of communication, as you're saying.
And that one comes up so often, and that really comes from, first off, almost all women wish their partner could read their mind. There is this desire or belief, and it's because another woman might have picked up on the more subtle nonverbal or little breadcrumb clues, but your man didn't catch that, or he saw it and thought, I don't want to touch that. I feel like I'm going to be in trouble. So there's either ignorance or avoidance. So then she stonewalls because she's resentful because, well, if you didn't catch the hint earlier, I'm not going to spoon feed it to you now. But now everybody loses because she's still not getting heard. And then he is going to avoid her because clearly she's in some kind of mood. And so it doesn't move the ball forward. It's the same thing as like the silent treatment. It feels powerful. It feels like you're going to get this message, but it doesn't do anything. So what's required is something a little bit more like, you hurt my feelings, or I'm frustrated with this. And so what I give couples, just to break it down, the most basic thing, and this is, I don't care about your gender, you need to use my relationship equation. You need to solve for X. I feel X. I own my feeling. I feel X when you Y. You did an action or inaction that hurt my, caused a feeling. Please Z next time. So I'm telling you, my feeling's mine. Your action provoked it. Here's the solution. Can we agree to that? And that's that. Then everybody's got, okay, I see. But there's this frustration, and the stereotype is the woman is mad, like, why didn't you get it? And at the core of that is, we all, again, regardless of gender, but in different ways, we wanted our partner's attention. I feel like you didn't give me your full because you're looking at our kid or your phone or your job or whatever. And if you were just here, then you would have gotten it. But that's unrealistic. That's not how it's going to go. So we need to play in the realm of reality, that given all those distractions and factors, let me just straight up tell you what was going on for me. But there's some kind of passive aggressive communication tradition that is handed down from older generations. They did a really funny bit about this on Abbott Elementary, the sitcom, which is a lovely, well-written show, where there's an older generation of teachers who are saying that we're going to give our men the silent treatment, then they'll know. And the younger counselors like, or you could just tell them, and maybe that'll maybe just telling them, and then they can say sorry and fix it. But they're like, I'm not going to feed it to him. He has to suffer. He has to figure it out. And that's a whole other thing that I think we get lost in, the idea of romance and stupid novels and rom-coms, that you think that somebody just needs to know. But you can hand them the manual. That doesn't make it any less sexy or romantic. It doesn't mean they love you any less. It shows love if they read the manual and they took the time to learn you. But they don't need to guess, because they're going to guess based on their prior relationship or their other experiences with men or women. And that's not you, that you're specifically you. So you need to hand your partner the you manual, and then they need to use it. But I think we all want our magic mind reader to come along and to just get me. And it's not going to happen.
The phrasing of it, of the you manual, of just sharing up. And I think it probably deepens the connection to be like, I'm going to be really vulnerable here and share with you that this is how I feel when X, Y, whatever. And then that's just like a way to probably nurture a deeper connection. So I see why that should be like encouraged rather than, oh, I'm going to be mad at you about something you don't even know about, and then double down on the anger because you didn't figure out. And then it like kind of, it just becomes this like almost nesting doll of emotions of like, I'm mad about the first thing and now I'm mad about the second thing because you didn't catch on to me being mad about the first thing, and so on and so forth. And I see how like debilitating that is if you're trying to just have good communication.
Yeah, we all want to be seen, but I can't see you if you don't show me, right?
Right.
Um, that's simply it. But I think you said it. I think there's a degree of vulnerability there. I think there's a degree of opening up and saying that I'm sad or I'm weak or I'm confused or because it goes for either one, right? Like female in this stereotype feels sad or neglected, but male feels confused or flustered. So neither one of us wants to say, so we're all just going to kind of fake it and stay strong, but that's not what relationships are. No, my definition of love that I just want to put out there is that you each show each other all warts and all your flaws, and you look at each other and go, okay, I can work with that. It doesn't need to be, that's exactly what I was looking for. But if I show you my stuff and you show me your stuff, and we're both like, cool, that's love. Just the wholeness of it, not the illusion, not the fantasy, not the if only. It's we just got to get real and raw.
I wanted to know what your working theory on like why some of that miscommunication happens from the male side. Why is it that men don't pick up on the subtle cues as well? Is it like a biological brain difference? Because it is pretty commonplace that like the vibe will shift, and you know, obviously I'm generalizing, but I think women can like sense when the mood is weird between them in any kind of interpersonal relationship, whether it's the home environment, work environment, whatever. Why are women better at picking up on those subtle cues and men just kind of miss it?
I think there's two things there. I think one is that men are not fostered, taught, whatever you want to call it, in how to respond to those cues. They saw it. They picked up on it. You go, and he doesn't comment, but he's going to tell his buddy in the car, she's upset about something. He caught it, but he doesn't know what to do, and he's afraid because almost all men look to their female partner like their mom in this type of scenario. Mom's going to be mad. Mom's going to ground me. Mom's not going to give me my dessert. So hopefully I can just stay under the radar and she'll get over it, forget about it, whatever, and I won't be punished, but I also don't know what to do. So it's almost like I think we've all had the experience where like your car breaks down and you lift the hood and you stand there looking at it and you have no fucking clue what's going on. You're just looking at it, but it feels so hopeless and helpless and like I don't have the first idea what to do. And that's how a lot of men look at their woman when she's upset. Like what would even be the point of addressing this? Because I don't have the first idea what would solve, mend. So I saw it, I heard it, I'm just going to ditch it. And then tied to that is this stereotype that women do have more emotions and more reactions to everything. And so it's almost like some of what's meant to be a message to your partner, I think feels like noise because yes, you gave me a sigh or a tone and I knew that was for me, but you might also do it because you're upset about something that happened with a friend or at work, or you don't like your haircut, or you're frustrated that the kid didn't do the homework right, or you're annoyed that somebody spilled something in the living room, or you're frustrated that you can't get the thing booked on the airline. So you're making noises of discontent all day. And so some of it I can be like, oh, maybe she's upset because the flight got canceled. It's probably not me. Like you're showing you're upset. Men are not taught to show upset. So I remember my father told me like the only time a man is allowed to cry is when his dog dies or his dad dies or his team wins. Those are the 3 times you may show emotion visibly, publicly. And otherwise we just swallow it. So y'all are making more noise and we can hide among it's probably something else. But all of that is silly. And so what I teach men is that there are two techniques that I believe you should use for your upset female partner. And it's called to either fan the flames or smother the flames. So you either can smother the flame by giving, if she's receptive, giving physical affection and just literally enveloping her with your body. And she will either cry because she's sad, or pound on your chest because she's angry at you, or push you away and now you got the answer. But just coming with the gentle hug, not a sexual advance, but just I got you, boo. Or fan the flames and go, you're upset, what's going on? And come in with a matching kind of energy. And she'll be like, well, can you believe that little Johnny got a detention? And you'll be like, what? What's going on? And so now I'm joining in your upset, because it may not be about me, but if I'm not your ally, then I become the enemy. If I try to minimize your feelings and go, it's not that big a deal, then you don't feel heard. So let me just join in, and whatever you're upset about, so am I. Let's get them. And it feels contrary to men, because we think, why would we upset the woman? Now she's going to be more upset. Yeah, bro, but she was already upset. Now, A, you know what it is, and B, it's not directed at you. It's directed somewhere else. So let's be mad at the HOA. Yeah, they suck. But now you're not in the way of that. You're not the target.
How do you know which one?
But men are scared of women's emotions. So
yeah. How do they know which the fan the flame, or what was the other one called?
Fan or smother the flame. Yeah, it's a guessing game, and you got to know your partner, and you got to vibe it out. And that's the hard thing with any of this, that I'm literally right now trying to write like a little masterclass on translating male and female. But everything I write down, I'm like, but there's an asterisk to that. There's an exception to that. That doesn't apply to every man or every woman. So it's hard, because some of this you need the U manual. I can't say my mom or my ex or my sister likes a hug when she's sad, because maybe Galena does not like a hug when she's sad. So I got to know you and your specific needs. And that's where it does deepen that connection. Like, just ask, hey, you're upset. In the future, what would you have liked me do there? And then now it helps both, because female partner feels heard, but male partner has some more of the manual. Now I go, okay, so if the engine stops, I should check the oil first and the battery. Okay, I got two things I can do. All right, I feel a little bit more competent, capable.
As far as these kind of language barriers where there's like misunderstanding coming from men here, or reluctance to like show a lot of emotions, this upbringing of only cry if your dog or dad died or your team wins, like how much of this miscommunication that happens in these couples is rooted in patriarchy? Because I think that that's part of the basis for men kind of being like more detached with their feelings, especially expressing their feelings.
Yeah. Man, porn and Joe Rogan have done a number on the men right now. It's almost, and just to not simply tease the men, it's the same thing that used to happen in generations before with women watching rom-coms and reading romance novels. Like, your guy is not going to sweep you off your feet with long flowing locks and make passionate love to you in the barn and then whisk you away for a fairy tale wedding. Like, that's probably not going to be how Valentine's goes. But also, guys, that thing you saw in porn, that's acting. That's not real. Most girls don't do that or react that way or like that. And if you follow all the like red pill Joe Rogan stuff, then you're gathering together in an echo chamber, and it's men talking to men, and you're not trying to understand. You're not trying. So there's become this sense of unreality, I think, that broadens the gap and is rooted in patriarchy and the idea of, I mean, the Barbie movie did a great job of it with the whole Ken kingdom, and it feels safer, and when the women aren't around, we are great, but then you want a woman in your life, and you make these exceptions, the patriarchal idea of like well, I wouldn't do that because she's the mother of my kids. Well, why not just respect her because she's a woman, but she's the mother of your kids? So there's a different, right? There's these caveats. There's these times when it's like acceptable to cry, but also acceptable to show weakness around a woman or love for a woman. And I think it's really like, it's this locker room culture of patriarchy that like guys will get teased. There's some high school guy, right? Well, maybe it's now different this generation, but I don't know. with the internet and Joe Rogan. There's some high school guy who's going to give something sweet to his girlfriend today for Valentine's, and the dudes in the locker room are calling him a fag or saying that's so lame, or, oh, dude, you're so whipped, or you're such a simp, because he's showing positive regard for the person that he likes. Like, what's wrong with that? Why is that bad? So it's, I don't know. I could go on and on. I don't have an answer, but I think it is the problem of the gender divide. Just like, I mean, we could get into, I'm not going to talk about politics on this, but like the racial divide. The studies show that if you grew up or lived or worked around people of different races and ethnicities, then you're much more open-minded and you see where people are people. And the same thing happens, I think, that if there's more gender mixing, but we go to this, it's like a middle school sock hop, and the girls are over there and the boys are over there, and nobody's cross communicating, and you're not realizing, like, wow, you're kind of like me and we almost think similarly. And I don't know. Somebody called me out once. I'll share an embarrassing story. I was teaching a class and we were talking about gender assumptions on both sides. And I said I was at a track training, running laps, and this girl was running faster than me. And I felt like, well, I can't let her beat me. She's a girl. And I'm an adult man at this point. And I said, but class, I had to remember, that's not fair. I shouldn't make that assumption. What if she's an Olympic athlete? And I don't know. Like, of course she's going to beat me. And then one of the girls instantly clapped back in the class and she said, or maybe she's just a girl who's faster than you. And she doesn't have to be an Olympian. She could just be a girl in better shape than me. But I had this unconscious wiring that even though I'm open-minded and I think the genders are the same, but boys are faster than girls, obviously. No, not obviously. That's a stereotype. So I think some of it is getting lost in the sauce of that wiring and not really challenging assumptions. Instead, you're building the assumptions bigger and you're buying into the like patriarchal rhetoric and the what's being sold.
Yeah, I saw something on Threads this morning that kind of leads me into thinking about this, and it's so interesting because there's this like obviously like big pull right now, big kind of reckoning of problematic male behavior and stuff. And the thread was a woman complaining, oh, I used to get on airplanes and men used to help me get my luggage in the overhead compartment, and now they all ignore me. And now if I get help, more often than not, it's from a woman. And there's like men in the comments being like, oh, well, you said you were independent, so go be independent then. And I've seen even things that I've kind of posted, because I'll post on these topics a lot. I've seen, men be like, oh, well, you guys hate us so much, so why would we help you now? And there's a misunderstanding, I think, where some men or some of the like resentment is coming from confusing chivalry with patriarchy, but they're very different things. And so like, how can men still be chivalrous and show up in a way that it's like, there's nothing disrespectful, I think, about like helping a woman with her luggage, whether she asked you or not.
I think that gets so tricky, and I'm going to blame both sides on that one, because there have been times when I have offered to hold a door open or give up my seat on the subway, and I've gotten some retort from a female like, I can hold my own door, I can stand just fine, that it's taken as a disrespect. I'm from New Orleans. I grew up in the South. We call women ma'am, regardless of age, not if they're younger than you, but if they're your level or above, or if they're simply in a position of power or respect, you say, yes, ma'am, or good morning, ma'am. And I've had women say, well, I'm not a ma'am. I'm like, I didn't call you old lady. I'm just using a tone of respect. So I think there is confusion. And I think it's, is it chivalry? Is it disrespect because poor lady can't carry the luggage herself? Is it a kindness regardless of gender? Because I've also seen that the woman who is middle or older aged, nobody's helping her, but the hot girl who's wearing the form-fitting dress, 3 guys ran to help her. So now, is she getting help because she's a woman, or because they're hoping that there's going to be some thank you and maybe she'll say, what a lovely gentleman, let's have a coffee? So I think that it's a hard one, because I do think we can still be polite and respectful regardless of generation or gender. Let's all just be nice, Can we just agree to be nice? But I think both sides take it to the extreme. I think you've got some women who are so wanting to throw down the gauntlet and be fiercely independent that you will not hold a door for me. And then some men see that, and instead of going, wow, she's having a day, then they go, well, you didn't accept my chivalrous thing with grace and a praise, so now I'm not going to bother anymore. So now nobody gets the door held open, because men are used to just walking in a room and being like, a man's here, yay. And so it's the lack of yay, I think, has had men reacting like, well, you're not excited that I'm here? You're not excited that I'm speaking right now? I feel insulted because the bar dropped. Now it's just, you just get normal treatment. But I used to get a party and now I don't. So I think you're mad at me. So I think that's part of the struggle here. But I do think we should all just continue to be nice, and
That's right.
regardless of just be nice, just be polite. Polite, chivalrous still has a little bit. Some people would say chivalrous or being a gentleman or saying ma'am is still some version of disrespect. But I think we can all just be polite. Say please. How about that?
Great.
And maybe it's both. If you turn to me as a woman on a plane and say, could you please give me a hand? Now you gave me permission, because that's the other thing that I think men have overreacted, but not totally unfounded, that I don't want my actions to be misinterpreted if, as I go to take your luggage, I touch your hand or if we had physical contact, I don't want to be accused that I had ill intent. And so, guy, you're helping her with the luggage. You didn't touch her butt in the bathroom. You know, I don't think anybody's going to misinterpret it, but I think there's a pendulum swing of an extreme the other way.
Yeah, there absolutely is.
If you solicit, could you please give me a hand? And I appreciate it too. I had stuff in my hands this morning and a guy saw me and he held the door for me. Thank you. I don't have a hand. I am not an attractive woman, but just dudes helping dudes out. It's just being polite, human to human.
Oh, totally. There's this misconception, I think, like for the most part, therapy has been normalized recently, but I think there's still some reluctance with other people. Me personally, like I'm single, so in the dating market for me, like a huge red flag is someone who's never gone to therapy, because as someone, I've been in therapy for a long time, and to me that signifies, oh, you think nothing's wrong? You think no feedback is warranted? So what would you say to people who are still apprehensive or who still kind of have a stigma around therapy? And do you agree with my assessment that it's a problem if someone's never been?
So, I think everyone could benefit from therapy, but that's part of the misconception that people think therapy means that you're broken, damaged, crazy, in crisis. You can go just to level up, and that's a lot of what I treat. I don't treat as much the mentally unwell anymore. I treat people who want to be more mentally well. You're already, if you never saw me, your life is pretty good, but we could make it better. We could make you better. And so I try to even bill it to certain people as coaching instead of therapy. That feels less offensive. As we're going to do some life optimization instead of let's see what your problems are. I try to work from a strength focus. Look at what you got. We should put that more in the limelight instead of, oh yeah, you have this insecurity. We should work on that trauma. So even in the way I try to introduce people in my office, I want you to see that it doesn't have to be that it comes from like a place of weakness, even though obviously that's part of therapy, is a space to be vulnerable. So I think that's a lot of it, that a lot of people think, well, I'm not in crisis. I'm coping okay. I'm not crying in bed. I'm not suicidal. I'm not having panic attacks. Therefore, this isn't for me. And that is the stereotype with a lot of medicine in general, right? Like some healthcare plans don't cover preventive medicine. If you break your arm, they'll cover it. But if you just want to go and get a checkup, they're like, that's not covered. So I think people and the insurance companies play into this, but not everybody goes just to get better. If I go to a doctor, people ask like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I'm making sure nothing's wrong. I'm doing maintenance like you do on your car. And that's the main pitch that I give people. You bring your car in and you get the oil changed, or you make sure there's gas in it or air in the tires before something falls apart. And that's how and why we should be doing therapy. Now, as to is it a red flag if somebody doesn't do therapy, I would call it, I think that's a little too extreme, but you do you. Everybody can have their own red flags. It's idiosyncratic to you. But I would say it more, it's a red flag if somebody were to look down upon you for doing therapy. Or if you said, hey, I would like you to meet my therapist, or I'd like to talk to you, but if they're not open. So I see we use things in dating to try to get an indicator of our future, of your personality, of your traits. And so, yes, going to therapy indicates two things: self-awareness and openness. And so if a paramour shows in some other way self-awareness that they have gained through spiritual journeys or self-help books or journaling or whatever, if you've done some soul searching and you're open to new experiences and trying things and saying, oh, what's that about, then they've met the goal. It's just harder to suss those things out. Saying they went to therapy for more than one session is probably a decent green light that, like, okay, they have openness and self-awareness. But I don't think you literally have to go to therapy to have that. Some people truly are a little better at doing that on their own or finding that through other means, or they're more private people and I don't want to talk it out. Or I had a bad experience with therapy. And so now it's nothing against therapy, but I'm going to do it my way. I do remind everybody, though, every therapist is different, just like dating. So one bad experience doesn't mean we're all bad. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's what we're looking for. I think I just want somebody that's, we always say, I want somebody who's done the work, but the work does not have to come through me. I've had to make myself a bit more humble and get off my high horse that in this generation of social media, I will be working with a patient for a while. And I feel like we're kind of stalled out. And they're like, I had this breakthrough. And I'm like, oh my God, it finally. And they're like, I saw this TikTok reel. And I'm like, motherfucker, like I have a PhD and you've spent thousands of dollars and hours with me. And the TikTok reel is what, but who cares? If you got the message, if you had the awareness, it doesn't have to come from me. It can come from Taylor Swift lyrics. It can come from, if you got what you needed, it doesn't matter to me the method of delivery. And I need to be more humble and not think it's I have the answer, because I don't. You need to get your answer however you do. So I think some people get it through different methods. You should use ChatGPT and TikTok as your therapist, but there's some decent stuff out there, realistically.
I like that. I think my kind of hesitancy with people who want to do it on their own, and not necessarily that therapy has to be the modality. There's also all kinds of different programs like 12-step programs, mentorship programs. To me, I've always kind of paused at someone doing it themselves, because I've always kind of thought, well, you can only meditate or, self-heal up to your level of self-awareness. If there's something that's not getting in, if there's like an egotistical block, then it would require some kind of third party, perhaps someone unbiased, to kind of give you feedback that maybe won't seep in from hours and hours of meditation on your own, because maybe it's just something that you really don't, it's just like a blind spot,
And I totally hear that. And I do think that I guess I challenge that back, and obviously I'm a proponent of therapy, but I've had people who have gone to therapy and lied to me, and they'll admit later that I was not telling you the whole story. I was painting a picture. So just because you're in therapy doesn't mean you're doing it fully. And then I've talked to people who are not my patients who will say, oh yeah, my therapist said blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no fucking way your therapist said that. That's what you heard. Then you walked out of there and there's only the two of you in the room and there's no recording of it. So you're going to tell the story in your head that you're not even think you're lying to yourself. You think he or she said, I should do that. And I'll call up my patients and they'll come back in and I did what you said. I yelled at my husband, or I broke up with I quit my job. And I'm like, I did not say that. Don't put those words in my mouth. You walked out of here and you had that desire, but I did not indicate that. So that's also the struggle, that sometimes therapy becomes the scapegoat. And that's what we're seeing nowadays too, that people will say, well, my therapist said I'm great. Or I talked about it in therapy and you're a narcissist. And people are using this therapy speak to feel like they've got it all figured out. But it's oversimplifying very complicated things. So That's like the caveat. But yes, obviously big fan of therapy. It's a great indicator. It's definitely a green flag that somebody's been in therapy and really got something out of it.
That is the double-edged sword. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You may hear what you want to hear. So, or you may have hidden things. I mean, I'm telling you, people will lie to me and I'm like, why are you here? Why would you do? But I think we want to be liked. It's like going to a personal trainer. It's like lying to your dentist. Of course I've been flossing 3 times a day, obviously. just don't want you to give me the speech, so I'm gonna just lie.
I would love to hear your take on attachment styles.
Yeah, so attachment styles, man, they're having a moment the last 10 years. Um, it's something that we learn about in grad school in like one of the early child development classes, and you sort of forget about it unless you work with kids. Like, okay. But it really has become in vogue ever since that book Attached came out as a way to try to understand adult interactions. So here's a trick with attachment styles. Whether you're secure, avoidant, anxious, it does help as a shorthand, as a way of speaking about your needs or your proclivities, and then also your partner. Because the danger I see so often in my office is the anxious person getting together with the avoidant person, and now there's this push, pull, chase, run scenario that one person's seeking reassurance and the other one's feeling smothered. And then the smothered one runs away and the anxious one says, I'm feeling abandoned. And we just both play right into our cycle of perception. Um, I don't think attachment styles need to be a death sentence. I don't think it has to be a permanent thing. I think just like any prior relationship, and attachment styles usually start with childhood with your parental figure, but they can also be influenced by early relationships of other kinds, your friends, your first love, or whatever. There's assumptions that come with that. And it's just knowing I have this preset perception. I assume people are going to smother me and ask too much of me. I assume people are going to abandon me or I'm going to be too much for them. That's your starting point, but that doesn't have to be the forever outcome. And so I think that's the trick. Just like having a toxic ex, if you've been cheated on, when your partner does something, you go, hey, remember I was cheated on, and what you just did there kind of triggered me and reminded me of something he or she did in the past, and so can we please soothe me? And it's a point from which to start the conversation. But otherwise, you're just going to see everybody abandoned me, everybody cheats on me. See, it's just I'm fated. So that's the struggle. That attachment styles are a way to get to know yourself and to explain yourself, part of the you manual to your new partner, but it's not your forever path.
I really like that you kind of indicated something there that I think people should hear loud and clear, is that sometimes a trigger can be such a gift because it's an opportunity to learn about yourself and to express to someone that, oh, because this set me off, because this triggered me. Because that's another one of these like kind of catch-all words that's being thrown around a lot these days. It's become really, really popular. And the thing that people miss sometimes is that it can be such a gift and a window into learning about yourself and an opportunity to like tackle something that maybe you wouldn't have tackled if you didn't previously understand that it set you off to begin with.
Which is what happens in therapy. And that's the point of going to therapy, that I will say what I feel is a throwaway phrase, and suddenly you start openly weeping, and I triggered you. And now we need to figure out, whoa, what did I just touch there? What happened? And now something gets uncovered, right? But then also in relationship interplay, the trick with triggers is that think about it almost like a dietary restriction. Like, you can avoid triggers. If you're sensitive to soy, you can just ask, is there soy in this? And let people know, please make mine without soy. And so if you have a trigger, you can let your partner, hey, just don't do this, and we're cool. It's not that I am broken. It's not that you're the enemy. Just be conscious of this sensitivity I have, and it's all good.
So we talked about a little bit in our pre-interview. You were like, I want to ask you some relational questions because I know you like to translate male behavior. So what can I serve you to translate?
Well, I don't know. You said you're single right now, but have you had any confusing dates recently or situationships that have left you wondering what the heck was going on?
Sure. I was really surprised. very much misjudged the last person I was dating. We saw each other for a few months, and I thought he was very on top of it emotionally. He kind of sold himself to have wherewithal with feelings and like, oh, and it was, oh, I'm in therapy and I've done this work and that work, and very much sold himself as a person who was like super into self development. And couple months into dating, ghosted me. Never heard from him again. Didn't even have like the courage to do a proper breakup conversation.
Wow. Man, I hate the ghosting so much because it just leaves everybody wondering and at first you start with the like longing of like, I hope he's okay. He's not replying. Like, I wonder if he had an accident or no, his phone died. He's probably needs to get a new phone. Then he'll see my text and he'll be like, oh my God, my phone died. So, okay. What happened immediately prior? Like in the 24 to 48 hours before the ghosting, were we about to meet up? Did we make plans that we were supposed to be doing something? Like what immediately preceded the ghosting?
Sure. So I had opened a conversation about potentially going long distance several weeks before this. And I was like, take your time. I'm not pressuring you either way. I just want you to know that my mind is open to this if that's something you're also on board for. And so the weeks leading up to that, he checked in about it. He was like, I'm not trying to deflect. I'm not trying to ignore you on this. I'm just still thinking about it. And I was like, great. That seems like a very emotionally stable reaction to like tell me that you haven't landed anywhere with it, but that you are thinking about it and that you're not leaving me hanging. So the week that I was moving out of my apartment, he had offered one evening, like a few days before, maybe on Sunday or Monday, he was like, oh, I maybe can help you pack on Wednesday. And so Wednesday I follow up and I go, I'll take you up on the packing assist. And he was like, no, I'm sorry, I can't tonight. I've got a lot of like new clients pouring into work. And I went, oh, that's great. Happy for you that you're getting new clients. I knew that was like a concern. And then couple days goes by. That was the last interaction. Couple days goes by. My move happens, and I had communicated ahead of time how stressful that was for me and how excited I was just to get the moving out of the apartment over with. And then I was still going to be in town for a few more weeks. And so when he didn't check in to see how my move went, I was like, something is amiss. And then, days go by and then it's Christmas and then I don't hear from him on Christmas. And I'm like, oh, I'm never going to hear from you again. And that's what happened. And I didn't check in because to me, I go, you've already ignored me for a week. I'm not about to chase you down. Like, I already know what this is. And you are not going to, if you don't want to talk to me, believe me, I will punish you by making sure you never hear from me again. Because that's kind of my form of punishment, is to like remove access to me.
Okay.
And so that, there wasn't any kind of plan. It wasn't like he didn't answer some kind of initiated conversation. I just simply never heard from him again.
Has he tried to reach out to you on other platforms or anything? Like it's been total radio silence? Okay.
Liked an Instagram story. Pretty useless.
So he's not dead. No, so, okay, we go immediately because we're hurt. You're the one telling the story. And so there's a feeling of abandonment, rejection, lack of closure. So what's wrong with this guy? But then if I translate guy, or really just it could be either partner here, maybe this is somebody that does not know how to say goodbye, that I felt feelings for you. And the feelings were enough that I couldn't face the end. And the end wasn't because we had a fight. The end is a choice that I could make to keep it going, but now I have to keep it long distance. And so I don't really want to do long distance, but I want you. The fact that he didn't try to see you and have one last hookup before you left is also indicative to me that there's some kind of feelings and he's not just a D-bag, because he could have easily known in his mind, we're not going to do long distance, but hey, why don't you stay at my place for the weekend before you leave? And then he gets a little extra something before we goodbye. And then that shows like less feelings and more kind of utilitarian or, self-centered. I think this guy, not necessarily about you, but in general, might struggle with endings or saying goodbye. This is the type of person that is going to skip his grandfather's funeral. This is the type of person that says like, yeah, I'll see you when I see you, and doesn't actually have like a hug it out departure from high school friends or whatever. Because there's like, and I back to that sort of thing of, I think a lot of men aren't taught how to deal with their feelings. Like, is it okay to have sad and happy feelings at the same time? Is it okay that I care about you, but I'm also saying I care about me more and I don't want to do long distance? I have complex feelings because I like you enough that we've been dating for months, but I don't like you enough to go long distance. So I don't know what to do with that. So I just fritz out and do nothing. And when people don't know what to do, that sometimes, so ghosting happens most dramatically in relationships. But I was speaking to someone recently who just suffered a loss. And after there's a loss, especially a very unexpected, not like your 90-year-old grandma, people don't know what to do with grief. They get weird. So even your best friend might just give you a like thinking of you text, and that's it. No check-in, no phone call, no come over, because they don't know what to do with grief. And they're just like, I can't bring the dead person back, so there's no fixing it. So what do I do? And this to me feels potentially similar. Now, maybe he's an awful person and he had 3 other girlfriends and he's terrible and we hate him. But if we want to actually think about it, translating, I think there's a difficulty with endings. And so this way, there's not an ending. There was just a dangling participle. And a lot of people do that of both genders, that it's an ellipsis. It's a ... It's a like, will they? I never said officially we were done. And I never said officially I don't want to do long distance. And so you made those assumptions in my total silence. But hypothetically, I can tell myself I never broke up with you. I never had to be the one to pull the lever in the trolley problem. Do you know the trolley problem?
Yes, yeah, the rolling over one person or rolling over 5.
Well, but I think the struggle there is it's that, but it's about taking action. So for listeners who don't know, the trolley problem is you have to choose. The trolley is going to hit 5 people, but if you pull a lever, it will go on a different track and hit 1 person. Obviously 1 is less than 5, and that hypothetically should be better. But now I had to get my hands dirty. If nature takes its course, those 5 people were going to get hit whether I was standing here or not. So I didn't get involved. You were moving either way, so you moved away. I didn't do anything. I didn't break up with you. Your actions broke up with me. You see? So now I can tell that narrative. And now I can tell my therapist that Galina was the one, but she chose to move away instead of be with me. See? So some of it's ego protection, and some of it's, I think, in difficulty dealing with big feelings. Or he's a dick. I don't know. So.
My suspicion was that too, and I really like the way that you framed it as the indecision and like bringing in the trolley problem with it, because I think that happens a lot, and I hear about it. I'm sure it happens back and forth with both genders, but that someone, like especially with a behavior like ghosting, they'd rather kind of wash their hands of it and create a scenario in their head where whatever cognitive dissonance they're experiencing allows them to be like, well, I wasn't the bad guy, and so probably like there's a part of me that, and whatever, I don't care about this anymore, nor would I want to be with this person, because looking back I'm like, oh, you were really avoidant in a lot of different ways. But I think that there's like this kind of suspicion that in me not fighting for, in me not reaching out and having like a confrontational moment about the ghosting, that he or someone in his position gets to go, oh, well, if you had a problem with it, if it was an issue, wouldn't you have confronted me about it? You didn't say anything either. You didn't wish me a Merry Christmas. You know, it kind of like takes the accountability away. And so I wonder if that's what a lot of this is people being like, well, I wasn't the bad guy here, and trying to paint the I'm not the bad guy narrative.
And it's also sitting in the complexity of, I'm not the bad guy. You asked me and I can't do long distance. And the fact that you asked me and didn't assume, you knew that might be too big an ask. But then that makes me feel weird. I'm a good guy. I'm a loyal guy. And you didn't do anything wrong, so why would I break up with somebody I care about? And humans, but especially boy humans, don't know what to do with mixed feelings. Women understand that Why am I angry and horny at the same time? Why am I hungry and tired at the same time? Like, y'all can sit in this complex feeling with hormones and with just naturally being a woman. But men get frustrated when it's not clean cut, black, white, good, bad. And that's where Me Too and Epstein and all these things have gotten complicated, that you can be a person who does good things over here, but then you did a bad thing over here. Now, that's for lots of other people to decide, does the bad thing outweigh the good thing? But you can do one bad thing and lots of good things, and then how do you define yourself? Are you a bad guy or a good guy? So I think that's where it's hard. Can you have that complexity? Can you be a good person who does bad things? Can you be a bad person who did a good thing that time? And we don't like that. Our brains don't like that. We want you to just be all good or all bad, or she was cool or she sucked, or he's nice or he's an avoidant dick. But no, it can be lots of things. He can be nice and have a lot of great qualities, and that's why I dated for a while. And he also had these other qualities that I wish weren't there. And it's a shame it ended the way it did, because it could have ended nicely. And that's all messy. You can't just sum that up in one word. And, life is messy. Emotions are messy. Relationships are very messy. And we have mixed feelings. And we need to learn to say and. I feel this and this. And two things are true, and that's okay.
It's hard for people to hold two truths at once.
Oh, it's so hard. People hate it. But that's so much of what I do in therapy, is teach you to live in the gray. Life is gray, man. And I will challenge anybody's assumption that it's not. People are like, no, this is right and this is wrong. I'm like, okay. And I give all kinds of scenarios, and it just makes people's heads explode. But like, there are times that what you said was so sacrosanct, you would break that rule under this circumstance. And everybody's like, well, yeah, in that case. I'm like, okay, so then it's not an always. Some things are messy. Some things are gray.
Are there any parting translations that you want to leave us with, as far as like common male to female or female to male misunderstandings?
Man, that's a big question. All right. Men have feelings. They just don't know how to express them. So they almost always come out as anger or frustration. And the way that I liken this is that right now, if you see light hitting your face, it's white light. But technically, we know it's the combination of all the colors, right? They just all come together to make white light. But there's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So men's emotions almost always are expressed as the white light of anger or frustration or, but underneath that, he might be sad. He might be disappointed. He might be feeling some other emotion, and he just doesn't know what to do with it. And because he's not taught or it's not trained in. So that, translating for women, I think women have emotions and express them, but it does not mean that women are emotional or crazy. I think that it's almost like when you talk about different cultures, and we understand that some cultures talk more loudly or more passionately, and some cultures are more reserved. So if you take a Puerto Rican and a German and put them in the room, they're going to look very different in their way of expressing themselves. And it doesn't mean that they are different in what they're saying, but the way that they express it. And I think a lot of men get this idea that women are so emotional and it's given like a bad valence. But if you stop being scared of the emotions, that's partly why you picked this woman. I tell a lot of guys that, listen, either you like roller coasters or you don't. But like, you got to understand that part of the reason people ride roller coasters is it's fun. A woman who has a lot of emotions and a lot of passion, yes, she might be very upset with you this day, but it might make for a really fun party night at a concert or great romp in the bedroom the another day. Their passion swings both ways, and emotions can swing both ways. And just as she's upset over here, she can be your champion over here. So I think women's emotions get a bad rap. They just need to be a little bit more accepted as like, that's just, it's like how Italians speak loud. It's okay. It's just her way of being.
I love that. Well, Dr. Todd Giardina, if people want to work with you, where should they go?
So I am based physically in Miami and Coral Gables, but through PsyPact, I'm able to practice across, I think it's 46 other states. So we can do telemedicine if need be. You can find me at my website, drtoddgiardina.com, or on social media, same name.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thanks for joining me.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.